Today, I'm going to give you guys a preview of the Atlanta Falcons 2025 NFL season. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. I'm going to give you guys what I'm optimistic about when it comes to this football team. I'm going to give you guys what I'm pessimistic and nervous about when it comes to this football team. And I'm going to give you guys a prediction as to how I believe this NFL season when it comes to these Atlanta Falcons will go. But before I get started on that, I want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend to support my channel. We are here. It's finally here. The Atlanta Falcons NFL season is right upon us. We are officially less than a week away. We're about, I want to say, 5 days? Something like that. And so we're here. The NFL season is right upon us. The Atlanta Falcons season is right upon us. And I'm gonna get into these Atlanta Falcons and what I think this season is gonna be about and how I think the team's going to do, and just going to give you my thoughts in general when it comes to this football team, man. Look, I've been an Atlanta Falcon fan for 27 years, since 1998. I've been through a lot when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. I started to become an Atlanta Falcon fan right around the time when they went to the Super Bowl in 98 and they lost to the Denver Broncos. And our safety, Eugene Robinson, was he doing his thing, the day before the Super Bowl, soliciting a prostitute. I remember that. So I was an Atlanta Falcon fan around that time. I was an Atlanta Falcon fan when they drafted Mike Vick. And we had a bunch of exciting seasons, a couple of exciting seasons, and Mike Vick brought a lot of energy and electricity and excitement and hype to the city of Atlanta. Into the Atlanta Falcon franchise. I was there. I was a fan during those times. And obviously, things happened with Mike Vick that I'm not going to get into. But that era went and we drafted Matt Ryan. And we had a lot of really good years under Matt Ryan. And I was a fan during those times as well. But on the flip side, there's been a lot of negative and bad seasons when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. I was there, throughout the bad of the Matt Ryan era, throughout the bad of the later years of the Mike Vick era, throughout the bad in between after we went to the Super Bowl, and before we drafted Mike Vick. I was there, and I've been a fan during this current 7-year playoff drought, and it's been some rough years when it comes to being a fan of these Atlanta Falcons over the past 7 years. And Lord have mercy, it's been bad when it comes to these Atlanta Falcons recently. It has not been pretty. It has not been pretty at all. It's been hard to watch. It's been hard at times to stomach being a fan of this football team. It's been hard. I have not liked the bad draft picks, the bad trades, the bad decision making that this front office has done over the years. But I've stuck with them through thick and thin. And I'm here to say that there are reasons to be optimistic when it comes to this team. And quite frankly, for what I think this season could be. Like there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel that I can sense. And so here I am as an Atlanta Falcon fan supporting this team. And let's get into it. Let's get into it. And so when I look at this Atlanta Falcon season coming up, this 2025 season, there actually are reasons to be optimistic when it comes to this football team. And the first thing that I'm going to start with when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons and why I think you should be optimistic and why I am optimistic is Michael Penix. As you guys know, we drafted Michael Penix a year ago. It was controversial because at the time the Atlanta Falcons signed Kirk Cousins. And look, I said it on this on this YouTube channel. I was not a fan of the Atlanta Falcons signing Kirk Cousins and drafting Michael Penix. I was of the opinion that I wanted the Atlanta Falcons to either draft Michael Penix and use the money spent on Kirk Cousins to address the defense and the depth issues on the team, or sign Kirk Cousins and draft for defense. And at that time, they didn't do either. And I, to this day, still think that was a colossal mistake on the Atlanta Falcons' part. But that's neither here or there. Michael Penix is here, and I'm excited about Michael Penix. I really am. I am very excited as to what I think Michael Penix is going to showcase on the field this season. And it's because of what I thought he showcased these last 3 games of the season last season. Michael Penix, I thought, was very impressive. Now, the numbers aren't going to jump off the tape at you. He only threw for 3 touchdowns. He only had 3 interceptions. And so, and the completion percentage was kind of in the low 60s, high 50s. It's not super impressive. But if you watch the games, Michael Penix's talent just jumps off the screen. And I got to tell you, what I'm impressed when it comes to Michael Penix, obviously the arm talent just jumps off the tape. It jumps off the TV screen. He has a live left arm. He can throw it deep. He can throw it intermediate. And he can just make any throw in the book. I think we're in for a season in which you're not gonna see the throwing talent that we haven't seen the throwing talent of a Michael Penix probably since Mike Vick. Honestly, Michael Penix's arm talent is ridiculous. Like even late in the season, there was a throw to against the Panthers, the last game of the year, where I think he just darts a 30-yard just laser to, I think it was Cardero Hodge, or I think it might have been him, where he just darts it in between a couple of defenders right on the money, and it's for a big gain. And it was impressive. And he's made many of those throws throughout the course of the season. Like the last game of the last drive of the game against the Washington Commanders with a playoff berth on the line. The Falcons were down 24-17, and it's 4th down, and he just darts a 15-yard throw to Kyle Pitts for a touchdown in tight coverage. Just highly impressive stuff. And he did it on 4th down with the game on the line. Now, obviously, the Falcons ended up losing that game, but the fact that he was able to do that in that moment just sticks out to me, because he tied the game and he gave the Falcons a chance to win, to send the game into overtime. And so I look at Michael Penix's talent. I think his pocket presence is impressive. The poise that he showed in the pocket, I think is impressive to me. And, I think he moves around a little better than I think people give him credit for. Just he can sense pressure. And just like I said, man, his pocket presence, his arm talent. And the one thing I deeply value when it comes to Michael Penix, and why I'm optimistic about this season for him, is teammates raving about him. I think that matters. When teammates are raving about you, which is what I've seen. Teammates, I've seen Drake London, I've seen Bijan Robinson, I've seen Jesse Bates, I've seen Caden Ellis. All of these dudes rave about Michael Penix. That means something to me. That means that teammates know what this dude is all about. And I think Michael Penix has earned the respect of his teammates based off what he's done in practice, based off what I thought he did the last 3 games of the season. He has a aura about him that I think can just galvanize the locker room. And I think Michael Penix has that. And so you look at his leadership, the charisma, even during training camp, The first game in the first training camp, he talks about how he's throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts, and we're gonna see more of that, over the course of the year. Now, look, did I roll my eyes when he said that? Heck yeah, I did. I rolled my eyes because I've been kind of disheartened with the Kyle Pitts experiment. Like I'm just over it, But Michael Penix said that, and to me, I think the fact that Michael Penix said that tells me that he's confident. And you know what? I think that comment is probably the biggest reason why I actually have a little bit of a slight amount of optimism, just a little, that maybe, just maybe, we might actually have a Kyle Pitts sighting this year. We might actually have a Kyle Pitts sighting for the first time since 2021, his rookie season. And it's because of Michael Penix. And so, look, man, Michael Penix, to me, at where he's at, everything that he says, I listen. I take serious. Because Michael Penix has given me a reason not to doubt him at this point in time. And so, and I think that says a lot about about Michael Penix. Like, I'm a believer in Michael Penix. I think Michael Penix is going to be in for a huge year for the Atlanta Falcons. I think this dude is going to deliver, and I think this dude is going to step up, and I think this dude is going to win us some games in ways that Kirk Cousins was not able to pull off last season. I think Michael Penix is an upgrade over Kirk Cousins. I do. And I'm excited to see what Michael Penix has in store for us this season, because, we need it. And I think Michael Penix has the personality. I think he has the aura. And I think he has the game and the skill set to provide these Atlanta Falcons something that we've never had since Matt Ryan has been a quarterback. And that's a franchise quarterback. And so I'm optimistic about Michael Penix. I think another reason to be optimistic about these Atlanta Falcons is the skill position players on the offensive side of the ball. Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson is a top 3 running back in the league. I do. I think he's a top 3 running back in the league, and I think, quite frankly, I think he has a chance to be the best running back in all of football this season. I'm high on Bijan Robinson. I really am. I think this dude is special when it comes to his skill set as a running back. He's a guy that can break tackles, he can run outside, he can run inside, he can catch passes, he can make plays as a receiver. You can throw him the ball in screens. He has enough speed. He can juke, he can spin, he can make you miss. He's hard to bring on the ground. I mean, he has a lot of juke, start, stop, spin moves, juke moves, all of it. Like, Bijan Robinson can dance when he's running. It's like I'm watching a ballerina the way he running the ball, in between the tackles and through that hole. I'm a fan of Bijan Robinson. I am. I'm a fan. I didn't have a problem when the Atlanta Falcons picked him a couple of years ago. Some Falcon fans wanted Jalen Carter, and I understood why Atlanta didn't take him, because he had some character issues that, teams scared away from him. I get it, but I'm happy with Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson's the goods. I think he's the real deal. I think he's an elite running back in this league, and it would not surprise me if in 4 months we're talking about Bijan Robinson being an offensive player of the year. Like, I think Bijan Robinson has that type of capability. He could have 2,000 plus all-purpose yards. Like, that's within the realm of possibility with Bijan Robinson, in my opinion. I think this dude is a special running back. And quite frankly, when you look at his talent and his ability, I think Bijan Robinson has a chance to be the greatest Atlanta Falcon running back in Falcon history. I think he has the capability of breaking a lot of running back Falcon records. I think Bijan Robinson is that special, and the sky's the limit. And so when you just look at the all-around game of a Bijan Robinson, he gives me a lot of optimism. Drake London, I think he's underrated. It's baffling to me that in these wide receiver rankings that I've been looking at this offseason, that this dude's not in the top 10. Like, it is baffling to me because the guy was 4th in the league in receiving yards last season. I mean, he was, but just by receiving yardage, he was top 5 in the league. You know, he's top 10 in receptions. You know, and he's up there with touchdowns. And so this is a guy that's productive every year, and just a guy like with Drake London, just the mindset that he has. He reminds me a lot of Roddy White. You know, not necessarily when it comes to just ability, but just in the mentality. Like, Roddy White was one of those dudes that he just didn't take no ish from anybody. He was going to do whatever it took necessary to get the job done and to position the team to win games. He was a competitor. He didn't give no ounce. He was just there to compete and beat the living daylights out of you. That's what Roddy White was, and I see the same thing with Drake London. I think this dude is just out there to compete. He don't give no ounce, no whatever. He's just there to take your heart out. And you just know that for these 48 minutes on Sundays, you're gonna be in for a battle when you're competing against me. That's the mentality of a Drake London. He can make all the tough catches. He can make the intermediate stuff. He can make contested catches. He can run after the catch. He can make you miss in the open field. Now, look, do I wish he was a little bit faster, you know, as a deep threat receiver? Sure. You know, I wish Drake London had the deep, big playability of a Julio Jones, or to a lesser degree, a Roddy White. I think that's probably what separates Roddy White from a guy like Drake London. Roddy White could beat you deep every now and then. Drake London doesn't quite have that ability, but he's still very good. Like, Drake London to me is still a very good receiver. He's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, and he's a weapon for Michael Penix to depend on. And I look to see Michael Penix and Drake London to develop great chemistry and to be one of the best wide receiver quarterback tandems in the league. Like, I think that's really in play. And so I'm optimistic about Drake London. Darnell Mooney, you know, he was injured during training camp. It seems like he's going to be healthy and right on time to play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 1. I think having him back is huge because he's your deep threat. You know, he's the guy that can beat you deep and make big plays down the field with his speed. And so I think having him back is good. We still got Ray McCloud. He was very good last season, and so having him back is important. And look, Kyle Pitts. Well, look, man, I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to Kyle Pitts. Okay, that's just kind of where I am with Kyle Pitts. I'll believe it when I see it. You know, that's just kind of where I am. You know, but look, like I said earlier, Michael Penix said on the first day of training camp that we're going to get Kyle Pitts to football today. And we're going to see a lot more Kyle Pitts this season. And you know what? He says it, I believe it. That's just kind of where I am. So you know what? Kyle Pitts, if Michael Penix is saying that we're going to get you to football today and we're going to get you to football this season, then you know what? I'll just have to believe it. We're gonna see more Kyle Pitts. At least I'm hopeful. At least I'm hoping. Or at least I'm praying that Kyle Pitts is gonna do something this season. But hey, who we'll see. You know, but we do have Kyle Pitts on the football team. And so when I look at the offensive side of the ball, like when you look at the quarterback with Michael Penix, and you look at the skill position talent, I didn't even mention Tyler Algier, the backup running back. Like, he's one of the best backup running backs in the league. You know, he's a guy that can spell Bijan Robinson. And so like I said, man, the offensive skill talent is there. You know, and like when you look at the skill position talent between the running back and the wide receivers, you gotta imagine the Atlanta Falcons are top 10 in the league in both, and when you combine the two. And so you got good skill position talent on the team, along with what we have with potentially with Michael Penix. You know, and you look at the interior of the offensive line, which is pretty good. You know, with Bergeron and Lindstrom at your guard spots, and so I think all of that is pretty exciting, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, which I'll get to in a moment, because I am going to talk about the defense when I'm talking about things I'm pessimistic about when it comes to this team. But I think two things that I'm excited about on the defensive side of the ball is obviously, we all know what the Falcons did in the NFL draft, right? Like, they drafted Jalen Walker from Georgia with the 15th pick, and they traded up, and they got James Pierce Jr., from Tennessee when they traded up with the Rams. So you got two young-ish, potentially dynamic edge rushers. And so that gives me some hope that maybe one of these guys could develop into a legit stud, something that we have never had since John Abraham. And so I like, and look, if both of Jalen Walker and James Pierce are good, then hey, we're sitting pretty, so you could have two potentially dynamic edge rushers on the team. And so I like that. And the other thing that I'm actually excited about when it comes to this defense, and this might be the best thing that Raheem Morris has done as head coach up to this point. He is actually starting all four of his rookies. He's starting James Pierce. He's starting Jalen Walker. He's starting the safety Xavier Watts. And he's starting Billy Bowman, the nickel corner from Oklahoma, the third round pick. He's actually starting him. And so you're starting nickel corner, you're starting safety, and you're starting outside linebackers, defensive ends, edge rushers are all rookies, which means they all have a chance to get on the field, and they all have a chance to develop and get better with reps. And I think that's a big deal. Like, you look at the 2016 Falcons, the team that went to the Super Bowl, you want to go to, flashback to memory lane. Dan Quinn did the same thing, right? He started Deion Jones, who was a rookie. He started, you had Jalen Collins, the cornerback. He started Keanu O'Neal, the rookie safety. He started all of these, another linebacker, number 59, I can't remember his name at the moment. But he started all of these young guys. And look, they struggled for a good portion of the year, but as the season went on, they got better. And they started to hit their stride late in the year. And as the defense got better, the offense, kind of was the lightning rod. They were the unit that started the pot. They were the unit that made the team go. Like, while the defense was struggling earlier during that 2016 year, the offense was leading the way. Then as the defense got better, you kind of saw the Atlanta Falcons hit their stride right at the right time as they made their run to the Super Bowl. And so I think ideally you could see a vision of something like that happening. I'm not saying Atlanta's going to make a deep playoff run or anything like that. Like I don't want to get too crazy. But you could see a world where the defense maybe they struggle early, but maybe as those young guys get reps and get, more confidence throughout each game, maybe they get better towards the second half of the year. And maybe the Atlanta Falcons could make a little bit of a run as they try to get into the playoffs, right? And so I think that's the ideal path that you could see happen this season, but nevertheless, I'm actually excited that Raheem Morris is starting 4 rookies. All rookies are going to be they're going to be opening week 1 starters. I think it's a really good thing, and I think it's something that should excite Falcon fans, including Falcon fans like myself. Like, I'm excited to see some of these young guys, how these young guys are going to do. So I think those are reasons to be excited about what's to come for the Atlanta Falcons. But look, man, like I said, there are reasons to be excited when it comes to this football team. There's also reasons to be a little nervous and pessimistic. Like, it's just this. And to me, when I look at the reasons that I'm nervous and pessimistic about this team, I gotta look at the Caleb McGarry injury at right tackle. It's a big loss. It's a big loss for the Falcons to lose him, because he's your right tackle. He's your guy that's supposed to protect, Michael Penix's blind spot, because Michael Penix is a left-handed quarterback. And so the right tackle position is kind of important, considering, that Michael Penix is left-handed. And so you're not going to have Caleb McGarry for the whole year. You're going to be starting Elijah Wilkerson, the right tackle, right? And I know they made a trade with the Seattle Seahawks, and they got they traded for Michael Jarrell, from the Seahawks. They traded a 2027 conditional 7th round pick to get him. And so he adds depth to your room, to your right tackle room. But again, Elijah Wilkerson is going to start at right tackle. We'll see how he looks, how he plays. But it's not ideal. Like, it's not ideal to not have your starting right tackle. And I think with Caleb McGarry, look, he's been a little up and down. We're going to be honest with his Falcon career. But I got to say, I think the last couple of years, he's actually made some improvement. Like, I think he's kind of grown into a steady presence at the right tackle spot over the last couple of years. And so not having him, I think, is going to be interesting to see how Atlanta deals with it. Now, I will say we might actually miss him a little more in the running game than in the passing game, because I think you look at the strengths of a Caleb McGarry. He was a really good run blocker. And I think I read a stat that when the Atlanta Falcons ran on the right side of Caleb McGarry, the Falcons averaged 5.3 yards a carry. And so he was a big part of that. And so it's going to be fascinating to see how Atlanta replaces Caleb McGarry. But I'm nervous. Like, I'm pretty nervous about that loss. I'm not saying Atlanta's season is over, is doomed or anything like that. But it's going to be fascinating to see how Atlanta is going to replace that. And I'm kind of nervous to see how they're going to do it. And so I think that loss has me nervous. I also think what has me nervous is, look, as excited as I am that the Falcons are going to be starting 4 rookies on defense, I'm still nervous about the defense, because make no mistake about it, the defense was not good last season. And even though Atlanta's going to be starting rookies, in all likelihood, there's going to be growing pains when it comes to our defense, because you're depending on a lot of young guys on the defensive side of the ball. You're depending on 4 rookies. You're depending on some second-year guys. You got Rukaruru. He's our starting defensive tackle. We drafted him in last year from Clemson. I think we drafted him in like the 2nd round or 3rd round or something like that. He's going to be starting. How is he going to look? And so, like, that's something that I'm nervous about. We got some young dudes in the secondary as well, right? And so I look at the youth on defense. I'm worried. I'm concerned about our ability to stop the run, because we're so small up front. Now, look, I know our starting tackles are Rukaruru, and you got David Onyemata, right? You got Caden Ellis. We signed the dude from Oakland. I can't remember his name at the moment, but we got him. And so I'm looking at our run defense. We weren't not great stopping the run last year, and we're depending on a lot of young guys on the defensive side of the ball. And so how we're going to be stopping the run. That's something that worries me. I worry. Like, you look at the teams that were playing opening the first 5-6 games of the season. You're looking at Tampa Bay. You're looking at Minnesota. You're looking at Carolina. You're looking at the Commanders. You're looking at the Buffalo Bills. You're looking at the 49ers. All of those teams can run the football. All of them. All of those teams can run the football. And so, like, how is this team gonna fare when it comes to stopping the run? That's something that concerns me. It just does. And I think the other concern I have about this Atlanta Falcons defense is who's going to be a reliable number 2 corner opposite A.J. Terrell. Who is it going to be? Is it D. Alford? Is it, who? Is it Phillips? Who is it going to be on the defensive side of the ball? And so I'm looking at the who's going to be a reliable number 2 corner opposite A.J. Terrell. And so that also concerns me as well. And so I think defensively, even though I think there are some young talent that could emerge, I still see some holes on the defensive side of the ball. I really do. And I feel like a lot of the success of the team it's going to have to be predicated on the offense carrying the load for a good portion of the season, because I think this defense is going to have some growing pains. I think they're going to struggle a little bit at times during the course of the season, and I think it's going to be heavy dependent on Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod and Kyle Pitts and the offensive line to kind of hold their fort, and Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator. How is he going to look, in year 2? I thought he did a pretty decent job, last season, but will he evolve? Is he going to grow? How many more wrinkles is he going to add to the offense? What is he going to do to make Michael Penix more comfortable as a quarterback? That's something to look into as well. And so those are things that I have on my mind when it comes to what I'm thinking about when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons in this season. But as I look at this season, right, I think this season this season come moving forward, I kind of get flashbacks to 2002. And look, I don't know if many of my younger viewers watching this remember what happened in 2002. That was Mike Vick's first full season as a starter. The Falcons drafted Mike Vick in 2001. And for those of y'all that don't remember, Mike Vick actually did not play, his rookie season much. He didn't play until the last, I want to say, 3-4 games of the season. Like, he did not play. It was Chris Chandler, right? And then Mike Vick eventually got his time, and he had some flashes and he had some moments. But 2002, that was the season that Mike Vick became a full-time starter. And that was a fun year. I remember it like it was yesterday. Opening game against Green Bay, Mike Vick went tit for tat with Brett Favre. The Falcons ended up losing that game, but Mike Vick played really well. And that was kind of like a momentum shift to how that season became. Like, the Falcons at one point went on a 8-game stretch where they didn't lose a game. They went like 7-1-0. Like, when they won 7 games, they had a game where a game ended in a tie against Pittsburgh, right? And like they went on like a 2-month stretch where the Atlanta Falcons did not lose a game, right? And the Falcons ultimately went that season went. The Falcons ended up finish the season going 9-6-1. They beat Green Bay, upset them in the first opening game in the playoffs. Remember that? Mike Vick had that iconic run against the Packers, opening game at Lambeau Field. Atlanta beat the Packers. That was a great time to be an Atlanta Falcon fan. I mean, it was beautiful. The Falcons became the first team that season to upset the Packers at Lambeau Field, something that no team at that time never did. The Falcons beat the Packers at Lambeau Field in the playoff game, right? And then they end up losing to Philadelphia in the next round. But that was a fun year. Fun year. And I think this year's Atlanta Falcons has the potential to have a season similar to that, where Michael Penix has a season where he makes a name for himself and he breaks out, and people, come to realize that, you know what, man, this dude Michael Penix is the real deal. That this dude is him, as the kids always say. Like, this dude is the real deal. Like, I think Michael Penix has that upside and that ability and the capability to have a killer second season. And so I look at this season coming up as kind of similar to that 2002 season, where Michael Penix has a breakout year. He puts the team on the map, and people look at Michael Penix as one of the more emerging superstar QBs in the league. Like that, I could see it happening. And so I look at that. I look at the defense, and my hope again is, look, I think the defense is going to struggle a little bit. I really do. But my hope and the optimistic view of this defense is maybe it gets better as the season moves forward. And it gets better, and then maybe by week 10 or 11, the defense is hitting the stride a little bit, and these young guys are getting better. James Pierce is getting better, and Jalen Walker is getting better, and Xavier Watts and Bowman are getting better, and you got Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell, and maybe the defense gets better later on in the year, and the offense is doing this thing, and who knows? Maybe the Atlanta Falcons become a sleeper NFC team contender. Who knows? Like, anything can happen. So that's the optimistic view that I have. As far as like how I think this team could go. Like, I think there's some 2002 Atlanta Falcon potential when it comes to the 2025 Atlanta Falcons. And so that's just kind of where I am with it. Now, as far as my prediction goes, if I had to predict this season, I'll be honest, I'm gonna go 9-8. I have the Atlanta Falcons going 9-8, but I have them making the playoffs. I don't feel great about us winning the division. I admit that. I have Tampa winning the division at 10-7, but I got the Atlanta Falcons at 9-8, and I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I think the NFC South is gonna have two teams making the playoffs, and I think the Atlanta Falcons are gonna be one of those teams. And I think this offense has a chance to be fun. And defensively, look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm nervous. I'm concerned about this defense, but I think this, I think this defense can get better over the course of the season. And I think this is gonna be a fun year. I think this is gonna be a fun year. I think this is gonna be an exciting year. I think there's a lot to look forward to when it comes to these Atlanta Falcons. And hey, man, rise up. And I'm looking forward to a very fun and exciting 2025 Atlanta Falcons season.